I'll wait for Professor Schiffbauer to sit down. All right, folks, for any of those keeping score out there at home, get those pencils ready because it's time for your starting lineup. Batting first, an intern that took over 250,000 pictures this summer, working as a multimedia content producer for the Washington Wild Things. Didn't know a thing about baseball going into his internship, but now he's endured enough baseball to last a lifetime. Hailing from the not-so-great state of Ohio, Mr. Ben Champ. Batting second, this intern is one of 2 presenters today that found themselves working for an MLB-affiliated team. He stayed close to home, working for the Altoona Curve as a press box intern. Your short stop today, from Tyrone, Pennsylvania, Keegan Raabe. And batting in the 3-hole and rounding out the internship lineup for this afternoon is an intern that was part of the Baltimore Orioles AA affiliate. He served as an orange ambassador, and no, not as in the fruit or as in the color, but as an intern with the Bowie Bay Sox. Hailing from the great state of Maryland, Will Yocum. Ben Champ, you're up to bat. Keegan Raabe, take the on-deck circle, and Will, you're in the hole. Ladies and gentlemen, let's play ball.
Hello everybody, my name is Ben Champ and I spent 4 months with the local Frontier League team, the Washington Wild Things. So what even is a Wild Thing? The Washington Wild Things are a professional baseball team located right next door in Washington, Pennsylvania. They are a part of the independent league, the Frontier League, which is recognized as a partner league by the MLB. They were established in 2002, so they've been around for a little over 20 years now. They really focus on the family element and, just giving a good experience to a family for an affordable night out at a park, and you just get to have a fun time with your family. So what does a multimedia content producer even do? Well, I did a lot more than just multimedia content produce, but that was what my title was. I assisted in the broadcast for Flow, as well as I shadowed the director Michael Greco. I learned from him how to direct for the broadcast. But my main focus was taking pictures. I took a lot of pictures for social media, for graphics that were being used after the game, and just photos that would be used throughout the season. So this is the A-team. This is what kind of the nickname we were given by Kyle Dawson, who is a former Waynesburg alum. He is also the assistant general manager and one of the announcers for the Washington Wild Things broadcast. He was my supervisor during the internship. This is him up here. And Michael Greco, who I talked about a minute ago, was the director of the Flow broadcast. He got cut off a little bit, but other interns, these were the people who I mainly worked with down on the field. On the far end is Alex Marinsky. He was the MC, Master of Ceremonies, and he would kind of handle all the in-between innings events. Tommy O'Connor, he was another photographer, same with Olivia and Aaron. They were all their photographers out on the field with me, but so my objectives going into this internship were pretty simple. I wanted to see if sports media is a viable field for me, as Logan alluded to. Going into this, I had no clue what an RBI was. I thought hits were how you scored in baseball, and I didn't know what a run was in baseball either. I wanted to hone in my skills as a photographer and videographer. After taking 250,000 pictures, I would say I am much more confident as a photographer than I was going into this. And I wanted to just cover fun and exciting events. That's why I like doing sports and stuff. It's every day something different. You get to have fun with it. You get to see stuff that's not average or normal, and it's something different every day. And my fourth and last one was to win the Frontier League Photographer of the Year award. It was something I knew about from previous work with the Wild Things, and I didn't quite know if it was something you could win as an intern, but it was a goal, and thankfully I ended up accomplishing that. So skills developed. I got to work with a lot of other great creatives, ones like Jacob Clevenger up there. So I got to learn a lot of things about graphic design and layout and all kinds of things that have just helped me becoming a better creative today. So there were a few memorable events, as I said, I got to cover. 3 of them were the Three Rivers Celebrity Softball Game that the Wild Things do every year. It's a big charity event that brings a lot of money in for the Hayward House, Cam Hayward's charity foundation. The second one was when the Wild Thing got to visit all of his friends at the Steelers game, and of course winning the Frontier League Photographer of the Year award. So these are just some pictures from those events. These 3 are from the celebrity softball game. There was just a ton of celebrities in the park, and they put on a softball game. It was, just kind of a fun day. It was just full of a lot of events and stuff. And these 3 are all from when I got to go with the Wild Thing to the Steelers game. As you can see, he was with a lot of his mascot friends and got to watch the game, and they did a little ceremony with the mascots. 2023 Frontier League Photographer of the Year. There were 16 other teams that are in the league, and all of them have photography teams that applied. It was a fan vote at the end of the season, and luckily, thankfully, enough people liked our pictures that we were given the award. So I just wanted to show off a couple representative samples of some of the pictures I took. Every picture throughout this has been mine so far, but just a little small collection. I have some pitching photos from in-game. Down here you can't see it too well, but that's why I'm in the garage getting hit from the striker from a pitch there. Caleb McNeely just doing some warm-up throws. Mini Morgan Wallen, as we like to call him, throwing out the first pitch. And Anthony Mercado coming back in from a home run hit. You got Robert Shaker there warming up the bat. And lessons learned. I think for me, the biggest thing I learned was, even though I don't know a lot about traditional sports and baseball, I think that my knowledge of creativity and my skills I can bring to the table still give me a place in sports media. I think that there is an artistic approach I can bring to it that doesn't get brought in a lot, and I just feel that I can do a lot in sports media, even though I may not know much about the sports I'm covering. Thank you. Any questions? Yes, it's working.
Do you know what a hit is now?
Yes. Tim?
So you spoke to me a little bit about how you were kind of in a creative rut there for a little bit. Did this internship and being able to take so many photos and winning an award for it, did that kind of reignite your passion?
Yeah, I'm kind of glad you asked that, actually, because going into it was kind of part of one of the heavier parts of my rut when I was in my burnout. And creating stuff at first was kind of hard. I didn't really have any motivation to want to do it, but being there and being forced to every day create and just getting back into it, it like made me refine my love for it and my passion for it. Any other? JR?
I've asked this question before. Is there anything from the Wild Things production that you saw that you want to bring back to Waynesburg to help enhance our productions, make it a bit smoother in some way?
I mean, we don't have too much experience with baseball, so I can't really say too much, but I mean, honestly, I think we do a little bit better broadcast. I think there was a lot that we were able to bring, us from Waynesburg were able to bring and help in the broadcast there, if anything, without trying to sound cocky about it, but yes?
To what extent did your lack of a baseball background either hurt you or help you in taking photographs early on?
Yeah, there was definitely a learning curve at first. I had to learn, kind of the play of the game and like where people were going to be at what times, how to expect what was going to be happening. And there was certainly a learning curve to that, but I think very quickly I was able to kind of figure it out, like the speed of the game and how things were going to go.
Yeah, the first time I was ever assigned to cover a baseball game, I felt a huge advantage because I played the sport a year ago. So I just wondered what kind of impact that had on you. And then you're dealing with the stadium size venue and not something like a high school or a small college field. Thank you.
Anything else? Yeah, Divas?
How do you think that, like you said, this is kind of a major sports, like you being a part of a sports event like this, do you think that working with the Wild Things opened you up to possibly doing sports photography for another sport or another organization?
Yeah, I mean, that's idealistically what I'd like to do. I mean, I like the high action, I like the fast pace. I mean, I might not know a lot about traditional sports, but like I said, I think I can figure it out, and I think there's a lot I can do. Is that it? All right, up next will be Keegan Raabe, who was an intern with the Curve. Careful, pop down.
First off, thank you everyone for coming to the internship presentations. Us three, we're very thankful to see all of your faces here. So I was an intern at the Altoona Curve this summer, specifically a press box intern. I had no clue what it kind of entailed going into it. I wanted to go more production side, but I started out more stats, taking game day stats that you see on like ESPN for Pirates games, or even pitch clock as well, which they just made mandatory in all leagues. So I started out actually before the semester ended in the spring. I went home on the weekends for weekend games, or I did training throughout the week after night classes or when I had free time in the afternoon. But here were the people that I worked with the most. Over on the far side was Preston Shoemaker. He's kind of the guy that I went to the most throughout the whole Curve organization. I knew him before the internship due to other events that happened in our lives. And he was the assistant director of communication and also the assistant play-by-play guy. John Moses, director of communications. I went to him if anything serious was wrong with, say, the stats or even the pitch clock throughout the games as well, but he wasn't really seen too often on days we didn't have games. He lives in Philly, so he went home to see his family a lot. Then Ethan Ronan and Jake Irwin, they were both interns with me as well throughout the press box. We kind of swapped positions through game day stats, pitch clock, and even we had a track man, which tracked all the pitches and then ended up halfway through the season getting cut, and they went to a different AI type tracker. So as I said, I started before the semester even ended in the spring. I was doing early MLB training, getting emails a lot from people to do pitch clock training or even game day stats that I had to find time to do throughout my busy schedule in the spring. I was getting work done early throughout my night classes in multimedia. Last spring, I finished my work really early, so then while in class, Rob Montini would let me do my MLB training that I had to get done throughout the weeks. And there were a lot of mistakes. It was my first time doing baseball stats. I knew baseball because I've played it throughout my life, but I didn't know how to keep stats in the game day ESPN system. And as you can see, a lot of mistakes. They would email me, critique me all the time on different plays. So there were 7 plays here that I had to fix before I could actually get confirmed to work the games. And it was probably 6 or 7 every single practice game that I did for statistics, which was very unmotivating. I felt like I wasn't going to be able to do it come the time I had to report to the stadium or the ballpark every single day. But eventually I got the hang of it, and there are guys who we report to throughout the games that are actually MLB guys that just watch the game and wait for any mistakes to happen through the stats. So they helped a lot with that as well. The next job that I held in the press box is the pitch clock. The pitch clock is probably, it goes very unnoticed, but it's probably one of the most important parts in the game today, because they can't start the game unless it's at a certain number. So when the clock hits 33 seconds left, that's when they can start the next inning. And I didn't know that until I started actually doing pitch clock training, and if you were off by 3-4 seconds, the umpires would walk you up to you because they were pretty mad. You would meet with the umpires before every game to discuss the last game, if you worked it, or if the other person, say Ethan or Jake, who were the other guys who ran the pitch clock, if they worked it, see if they wanted anything changed with timing, or if there was a mistake with batters going to a different spot. So for the minor leagues, it is 14 seconds you have when there's one person on base, and 18 seconds when there's at least 2 people on base for the pitch clock. Trying to get the timing right was the hardest part. Right when the pitcher catches the ball, that's when you start. My first 2 games, I was not very good at it. I was waiting until the pitcher would get up onto the mound or right before the pitcher would catch it, and I would probably get walkied up to after every half inning until I fixed it. So that was also very discouraging, but just like the game day stats, with repetition, it comes a lot easier. My next job was on the production crew. I was mainly directing. I didn't run a whole lot of camera throughout the season except for roving camera, which is the mobile camera that goes around to different games happening through the half innings. And I didn't really work a whole lot of graphics. I worked replay and directing, and I liked it. I didn't know how I would like directing in baseball because you don't really have a TD. You do everything yourself, but I came to like it a lot more than any other sport I've directed here, just because I can call the shots whenever I want to. I know exactly when it's going to go to one shot or another shot. The hardest thing directing minor league baseball is there are so many events happening within the game, within half innings or inning breaks, that you have to actually direct other events. So I actually directed a karate demonstration after the second inning, the top of the second inning, on the field. So that was probably the most interesting thing I did this summer while directing. Replay, I got really good at replay through doing it for baseball. Baseball's kind of harder because if they don't switch to the high home camera, which is the one that tracks the ball after the hit, if they don't switch it to it right away, then you don't really have a good replay. But I was able to take different camera angles, and that's what our replay system offered. You could take any camera that was on, take the angle, and follow the ball. 25th season anniversary ring, that was probably one of the biggest giveaways of the year, and I had to help hand out rings as fans were rushing in to the ballpark. The ring is right over there. I brought one with me, and there were fans camping out in the chairs outside of the gates for 3 hours before the gates even opened. I show up probably 3 to 4 hours every single game day to come into the gates, and I could barely make my way into the doors because there were just fans camping on chairs, and half of them probably sold it on eBay after the game anyway. The rings were gone after 10 minutes. The gates were open, and it was the biggest promotional giveaway of the year, besides when Paul Skeens came to pitch. The Roberto Clemente Day, the Clemente Museum was there. It was probably another big event that happened this summer. A lot of Pittsburgh media guys came in to cover this day. Roberto Clemente Jr. was there and talked to the ballpark about his father and the legacy that his father left in baseball. And I actually got to talk with him all game because I was pitch clock and he sat right beside me in the press box. So I got to kind of pick his brain a little bit and didn't know at first until he told me that he was a Spanish announcer for the Yankees for 3 of their World Series wins. This is probably the biggest learning opportunity I had this summer is interviews because they were all on radio. And I've never really done radio interviews before. I've done newspaper interviews or interviews for a package, but radio interviews, there's no really editing. It's all conversational. And I learned that very quick. I was not very conversational for my first one, which was Drew Maggi. Right after he got called up to the Pittsburgh Pirates, he got called right back down to the Curve. So I talked to him. I talked to Leo Verpagero, who is at the Pirates right now, along with Andres Alvarez, Matt Gorski, and Carter Binns. But I really like doing interviews. I didn't know I would like doing radio interviews going into it, but afterwards I learned a lot, especially from Preston, who critiqued me. One of my favorite moments, it was kind of a bizarre play. You wouldn't expect it to get as much recognition as it did, but Leo Verpagero tripped on his way to the plate whenever I was directing, and it got shared on MILB, on X, along with MLB Pipeline. And here is the video.
Also homered tonight. Once you pitch.
The hard part about directing was a lot of the people we worked with were high schoolers, so the camera work is not amazing.
He turns on the Jets and arrives standing at third base with a triple, and then the throw gets away from the third baseman. Piguero stumbles home and scores. Big smile for Leo Verpagero, who lost his footing.
And that leads me to the Paul Skeens week. That was a few weeks after this play happened. Paul Skeens was if you guys don't know, first overall pick in the MLB draft this past year. Was picked by the Pirates, went down to Greensboro, and then finally made his way up to the Double-A in the Altoona Curve. And it was probably the craziest week of the year. We found out that Monday, leading up to his start, that he was coming up to the Curve. Tickets sold out for the Saturday game once we announced it by Tuesday afternoon. The only tickets left were standing room, and there was not a whole lot of them. Media was coming into the ballpark all week. I was getting texts from multiple people. Brock Owens actually messaged me, if you guys know him. He messaged me about getting an interview with Paul Skeens because he is at WJAC right now in Johnstown. Unfortunately, it wasn't able to happen. But probably the most stressful thing was finding where to put Livy Dunn in the ballpark because we found out she was coming that Saturday. And I was one of the main people to try and figure out where to put her because she's such a big face in social media that we didn't want her to be bothered by other fans. We actually had extra security with her all game. So it was a very stressful week for everyone in the press box trying to figure out where to put Livy Dunn during his start. And unfortunately, his start wasn't as it was expected to be, with only 2 innings pitched. So I'm very thankful for the Curve organization for kind of helping me in going into sports media, knowing that's what I want to do and work in the professional field. And thank you guys for coming out to my presentation. Any questions? Yeah.
So you mentioned having some type of rut and unmotivational tactics. What moment in your internship did you bring out a moment where you can say, hey, I know how to do this?
It's probably after 2 or 3 games with the stats. It was very rough for the first few games because there were a lot of ejections that I had to go in and fix and say what player got ejected. So it was very stressful at a point, but there were a lot of guys who worked the stats in the press box that helped me out. And probably it was probably my 4th game working as a game day stringer that I really felt confident because I had almost a perfect game on the stats. Yeah, Joe.
Did you find a place to put Livy Dunn at the end of the
Yeah. So actually I wasn't at the game because I was moving in the day that Paul Skeens was starting. So we put Livy Dunn right beside the announcer's booth outside, but there were still videos of fans going and standing right beneath her at the bottom of the press box, just standing there, not saying anything to her, just standing underneath her. Yes, Sparky.
What would you say to up-and-coming interns that really would also face like some discouragement? What would be your advice to them to stay involved?
It's hard at first. No one knows like what's going to happen at first until you actually get into it. So my advice would be just stick with it. I was very discouraged at the beginning, but I'm glad I stuck with it because after a few weeks, I actually found my groove. And it was long weeks. Don't get me wrong. I was there 6 days a week for about 10 to 12 hours at the ballpark. So it got very long and exhausting after a while, but sticking with it is probably the best thing that I did. Yeah.
I was going to say, it sounds like you had a lot of high stress situations that you said you fought through. Is there anything from those high stress situations that you were able to take out and apply here in the high stress situations in our department?
Yeah, I'd say probably just taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture, kind of laying all my plans out in front of me. I kind of applied it to the work I was doing with Bobby Fox with video editing. The first week I put in about 50 to 58 hours in editing hype videos for the football team and soccer teams. And I just had to kind of sit back because it was very, very stressful situation.
What was your absolute favorite moment though?
My absolute favorite moment was probably just hanging out in the dugouts during batting practice with a lot of the players. I got to get very close with some of the players. I actually talked to Paul Skeens on the week he was pitching because he was just hanging out in the dugout, didn't really do a whole lot that week besides talk to media and throw around a little bit. But I'd say probably him and Drew Maggi were my two favorite moments, just talking to them. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you guys for sitting through my presentation. Up next is another Eastern League intern in Will Yocum, who interned at the Bowie Bay Sox.
Good afternoon, everyone. As I said, my name is Will Yocum. I'm proud and honored to hold the title of being the very last presentation of the year 2023. And I am so excited to see all of your faces here. Thank you all so much for coming. And I hope you enjoy listening to my presentation about my summer with the Bowie Bay Sox. Yeah, I'm going to be cheesy a little bit. I'm using a quote from one of my favorite movies of all time, Forrest Gump. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. My first day showing up to the Bowie Bay Sox, that's the first quote that came to mind. I showed up about 45 minutes early. I was excited. I was nervous. I was just ready to get the day started. I had no idea what I was doing. I knew where to be. I knew who to talk to. That was it. I went in and saw my first supervisor, Danny Fox. She literally spoke to me for 2 minutes because everybody in there is go, go, go. And she has put me in the conference room to wait for a bit until all my coworkers got there so I could meet them. 5 minutes later, the man you see on that screen, that is Adam Pohl, my other supervisor. He's the director of marketing for the Bowie Bay Sox. He comes sprinting into the conference room. Luckily, he sees me. Now, Adam and I have known each other for 9 years. He's a good family friend of mine, so he knew me right away. He was the one that offered to give me this position for the internship at Bowie. He came sprinting in, immediately saw me and said, "I need you, let's go." He had gotten a call from one of the owners of the Bay Sox that we needed to make an appearance at the Bowie Center for a festival going on immediately. We did not sign up. We didn't sign up prior like we usually do. This was a last second appearance. So he ran and grabbed our Louie costume, our mascot Louie, and began dressing up as it, and we had to drive to the Bowie Festival about 5 minutes down the road, and I had to walk around him in the summer heat with him wearing that. Thank goodness it was not me. I had to lead him around, take some pictures, shake some hands. I even got to meet the mayor of Bowie on my first day before even getting to meet my coworkers. So you can understand this quote a little bit now, how you never know what's going to happen. That was just my first day at Bowie. So after that little introduction, I'm gonna show you a little bit about Bowie, show you the stadium a little bit. We're gonna go through the team members, some of my roles and responsibilities, some more stories about what happened over the summer, some of my accomplishments, my struggles, finally my overall take on what I've learned over the summer, and I'll open it up for a little Q&A. As you can see here, there's a map of Bowie and Prince George's Stadium. It's actually a very gorgeous stadium. If anyone saw my solo flyer that Ben Champ gracefully made for me, you probably saw some buildings behind those trees. That is false. There are no buildings behind those trees. That was AI's work. That's complete wooded area. So I just want to make that point now before anyone thinks that there's like an entire city back there. It's not. Gorgeous area though. Fantastic area. Bowie is a fantastic stadium. However, that road right there, you see number 3 going down? That road was the bane of my existence over my summer. I had to fight Baltimore and DC traffic every day. There would be some days that it would take me 39 minutes to go to work. There were some days it would take me an hour and 39 minutes to go to work. It was not fun. I did not enjoy it, and I hate taking that road, and I hate ever having to see it ever again. Meet the team. These were my 2 supervisors over the summer. There is Danny Fox. She is the marketing manager. She's only 23 years old, but she graduated from the University of South Carolina before coming up and working for Bowie. In fact, a lot of my coworkers attended the University of South Carolina. Go Gamecocks. So I felt a little out of place since everybody pretty much already knew each other besides myself. Danny, she was fun to work around. There were some days she was, some days she wasn't, but that's every manager. We still loved her all the same. As I said, there's Adam, known him for 9 years, family friend. He used to be the former announcer for the Bowie Bay Sox, now currently the director of marketing. He also does some announcing for the Mount St. Mary's University, their basketball team. He was even been able to announce one of ESPN games for the Maryland Terrapins over this past couple weeks. So that's a very exciting gig for him. He's one of my main mentors when it comes to being a sports announcer. He was one of the big guys that got me into it. Can't thank him enough for what he's done for me. So some of my roles and responsibilities, my main role, pretty much, we got to run game day activities on the field. We would set up some games for fans to go down and participate on the field. This was during 4th of July. As you can see, I'm wearing, looks like a chef's hat, a little bow tie, and an apron that says Bay Sox on it in American flag colors. It was during our 4th of July celebration. Pretty much, like I said, we'd set up some games, put it on the field, and then we'd have another person with a radio and a clipboard to go find contestants as they walk into the stadium. So they'd have less than an hour to find enough contestants for the day. Some days, especially on our bigger nights, they would need to find at least 15 people to go participate. Not everybody's going to say yes. So that job was just a tad bit more stressful than even setting up the games and running them. Now, of course, there were some days you'd probably only have to find 8 people, and that was way more easier to find 8 more people than 15. The next one, there were days I'd get to go in the press box. That was what I was expecting to do going into this internship. I was not expecting a majority of this marketing side. I'm not a marketing major. I don't do any sort of marketing whatsoever. I've never learned it before. I'm more of the announcing side, so I expected to go work in the press box. I was able to do some single cam productions there. Even got to dabble my hand in some PA announcing some of the batters as they walked up. Got some of their walk-up songs. That was some of the highlights of my summer, just being able to do that. One of the bigger things we did on most of our off days when the team was traveling, we were able to promote the Bay Sox across the county. They would grab us, pull us in the office. Either we'd make a bunch of Excel sheets, not the funnest thing in the world, to contact other people to get them to come out to some games, show up. Maybe we'd have some promotion theme nights alongside their own promotions. We'd work something out. Or they would grab us, have us pack up and load our cars with a bunch of Bay Sox material and ship us out throughout the different parts of the county and literally pass them out to business upon business. Our favorite places were to go were shopping malls, shopping centers. Those are the easiest places to go. There's already a bunch of different stores inside them. Those were some of the easier things, and those were just some of my roles and responsibilities. Up there in the top left of the screen, Governor Wes Moore, he's the governor of Baltimore. We were able to get him to come out to one of our games. Sadly, that was after I'd already come back to school, but I do have my hand in being able to get him out to come to see the Bay Sox. Some of my accomplishments, I'm going to start with this bottom dot right here. You see here, yes, I encouraged a pitcher to retire. That was probably one of my biggest accomplishments, and here's why. See right there, that picture. That's Xavier Moore, one of my best friends that I actually did end up making there at Bowie. He's one of the pitchers for that team, was. We met at one of the baseball camps we were running for kids. He was drafted in 2017 by the Texas Rangers before being traded to the Baltimore Orioles in 2019. We started making a couple of jokes, having a couple of laughs. We understand that we actually had a lot in common. I played football and I dealt with a lot of injuries. He played baseball, and despite him being a pitcher, he dealt with a lot of injuries. He got into baseball because of his father. I got into football because of mine. I wanted a way out because of the injuries I was sustaining. It was getting way too much for me. He wanted a way out because of his injuries. He asked me, how was I able to get out of football despite my dad pretty much pushing me into being a football player? I broke down the conversation I had with my dad. I had to make sure that he understood my injuries were getting too much for me to handle. That's not what I'm going to do when I get out of school. It's just not the passion I want anymore. Xavier took that, went to his dad, and as of the end of this past season, he is now hopefully attending the Ohio State University for a major in communications. That is one of my bigger accomplishments. I mean, if he didn't want to play baseball anymore and I got him into a communications field, that's perfectly fine with me. I think that's a dang good accomplishment in my opinion. Yes, my apologies. Going back up to the top dot, I did make a lot of connections, as I said. Xavier Moore up there. I even met our Baltimore Orioles' own #1 overall pick, Jackson Holliday. Yes, we got our own too. He was drafted in 2022 with the first overall pick. He came down to Bowie for about a month and a half before we shipped him up to Virginia to our AAA affiliate. But again, our week was just as crazy as Paul Skeen's coming into Altoona. We had a ton of media. Jackson's family came in. His father was also a former #1 overall pick. Media was all over him. Crazy, crazy times during that week. Stadium was sold out every night. And I'll tell you, that crowd is just absolutely incredible. We can fit up to 15,000 people in that stadium. So when it's full, it's full. So making those kind of connections, especially this early in my career, it's entirely incredible, and I can't thank Bowie enough for that. Learned some skills outside of my career option. I am not a designer. I am not a design major either, but that is one of the flyers I made for one of my own theme promotion nights that Bowie would let me come up with on my own as an intern. It was a villain night, and I'll have a quick story about that as we go on. Some of my struggles. If you're a communication major, which most of you in this room are, you understand that one of our biggest struggles is that communication. Talking with other people is very difficult in this day and age, despite us having endless opportunities and endless technology to talk to other people. You can email someone, text them, call them, just right out of your pocket with your phone. They won't always get back to you. That is one of the biggest struggles, is having to go into work and not knowing what you're doing, because a lot of people are moving at 1,000 miles per hour, not being able to get back to you. But we worked around it. We found solutions. We came up with solutions of our own, and that's kind of what the biggest thing you need to learn is problem solving, being able to come up with that on your own. Traffic, if that's one of my biggest struggles, I think I'm in good shape. As I had dealt with earlier, DC, Baltimore traffic, 39 minutes, hour and 39 minutes, you never know. Now, my very own theme night production, why is it in one of my struggles? This night wasn't promoted nearly as much as it should have been. Not only that, but it was promoted on a night that we already had a separate promotion going on. So we had to fight with another promotion at the same time while trying to get my night through. Not to mention, I came up with 3 ideas. The idea I came out with, the villain night, was dead last on my totem pole. That was a last second thing. I had better ideas for the other 2. This one was back in my mind, and they chose it. So I had to go with it. I had a month to plan it. We were given a very, very small budget to work with, and I had to promote it and do as best as I could. Did it go the way I expected? Absolutely not. But did I get it through? Absolutely. I fought through it, and that was one of the highlights of my summer. What I've learned, yes, I do look a little pregnant in that picture. What I've learned, I learned problem-solving skills. I learned how to fight through adversity. I learned how to deal with lack of communication despite it being in the communication field. I dealt with being a sports announcer but having to live in a marketing world. How to learn from the marketing world and even take aspects of that and bring it into the sports broadcasting field if I can. Also made some really great friends there. David, on the left there, still talk to him daily. One of my best friends currently goes to Towson University back in Maryland. Kid on the right currently goes to South Carolina. As I said, he's one of the few that did go to South Carolina. It kind of made me feel left out, but I've learned so much from Bowie, more than I ever thought, despite it being one of the just craziest and wild rides I've ever been on. I can't put into words what I truly learned other than dealing with adversity and working through it. Thank you so much. Any questions? Spencer.
You said so one of your struggles was the traffic and everything. How did you kind of learn to get over that hump, and how did you, I guess, learn to not let it shake your confidence or kind of mess with your day going into Bowie? Like, was there anything you did that kind of distracted you from the idea of how bad the traffic was sometimes?
Well, it became a daily routine of just checking the traffic on my GPS. If I saw a bunch of red, I knew I got to leave at least an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours earlier than I needed to, just to get there 30 minutes before my shift started. It's just all about starting a new daily routine, getting into a habit of just knowing that there's probably going to be a lot of traffic that day, and just getting through it, really. Joseph.
Genuinely making a professional baseball player retire is something I never thought that could actually happen.
Yeah, trust me, I didn't either.
Did you learn anything from yourself from that experience, taking away from that, maybe just personally or through this internship?
The fact that I can make a man older than me who also got drafted into professional baseball and make him just reconsider his life choices. Not the original one was a bad one, but to make him just reconsider that baseball wasn't his thing, just as I realized that football wasn't my thing, and go into an actual career path that we can enjoy life moving forward. That just made me feel a better person, Jay.
I must have misheard you earlier. You wanted to say you sent him to Waynesburg University's communications.
No, he had set in his mind that he was going to Ohio State. He's an Ohio-born boy. He wanted to go to Ohio State. I did mention Waynesburg. Don't worry, I promoted that. But Ohio State was his home to be.
So,
Sorry. Follow up.
Are you open to new ideas? You said that you kind of went outside of your comfort zone doing the graphic design.
Yeah.
Are you more open to those ideas now, or now that you've kind of dipped your toe in them, have you decided, yeah, I really don't like that. I like my lane.
I know where my strengths are. I know where my weaknesses are. Designing is not one of them, so I will leave that to the professionals. Lexi.
You mentioned that your internship kind of didn't go exactly how you expected. And
Yeah.
You kind of went into these realms that you weren't expecting.
Yeah.
If you could do it all over again, would you change anything about the experience, or are you happy with the experience you got out of it?
I would take away the traffic. I would take away that entire road. I would hopefully learn how to teleport. Other than that, no. I made so many good friends. Like I said, those who I still talk to this day. I learned so many new skills. I had so many memories now that I can carry for life. I could tell my grandkids I made a professional baseball player retire. That's the biggest story I got coming out of that. So, no, I don't think I'd change a thing. Any other questions? Ivy.
So, being that you did more of a marketing professional side, what were your biggest takeaways that you used in your productions this semester?
I mean, pretty much our social media side has actually grown exponentially. They've done such a bang-up job in what they've done so far this semester. So there isn't really much input I can put in there. That's pretty much what I ran, especially on game days, was the social media side. I was grateful enough to maybe do a couple of Instagram posts here and there. That's pretty much what I took for it. Other than that, no, it's not like we're going to drive around the community and truly promote ourselves. I mean, Waynesburg is a college town. As much as how small it is, I mean, the college takes up about 50% of the land, so they know us already. I mean, like I said, I still take what I learned here at Waynesburg and go around and promote it. I tried telling the baseball player, didn't get through, that's fine. But other than that, not really. I mean, like I said, we've done such a great job that I didn't really need to. Sparky.
Did you learn a different appreciation for maybe some of the other aspects that go into doing a production or working for a different team? I know you mentioned, obviously, you're a broadcasting major, but what are some of the other appreciations you learned to have for doing other jobs?
Right, so we should never take anybody that's going into marketing or even design for granted ever again. They're moving at 100 miles per hour, man. They're They move so fast. They move just as quickly as we think that we move. We think that we go faster than anybody. Absolutely not. We all go at the same speed, and that's go, go, go. We're all stressed, and we all work so well under pressure. We got to appreciate each other for our strengths. Yes.
Do you think we should up our social media production at all? You're mentioning it Facebook from doing the job. Do you think we're enough?
There can always be improvements. I mean, you know, nothing's perfect.
Sure.
You can always get better at something. I'm just saying that we've grown since definitely last year, in the past couple years, and especially my freshman year since I've been here. We've grown. We've done so much better. There can always be improvements, and there's always going to be kids coming in that have different ideas to show to that. All right. Sorry, that's all I got for today. I'm so sorry, Sadie. I was given the nod. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much, everybody. We're good. All right.